When you want a brand that sells for you, that you are the one that is so freaking magnetic and you are not constantly fighting for attention, then that means that that brand cannot be built upon, proving, convincing, or like chasing energy. These are the 7 things that I would do differently in order to have it sell bigger and much faster and save a lot of years. Hello and welcome back to the Power of Personal Branding and Manifestation podcast. It is me, your host, Malika, and we are in for a juicy conversation because a lot of people believe that, the hardest part of building a personal brand is standing out, being able to stand out with your business, when in reality, it's truly about becoming memorable enough that you start to become the person that gets chosen, that gets remembered, that gets highly paid. And that is what makes the whole ass difference. So we are going to dive deep into that. Get freaking ready. Go on your hot girl walk. Go grab your matcha and let's go. Let me start off with number 1. Okay, number 1 is probably the most important and the one that I find a lot of people overlook the most. I would focus on becoming impossible to mistake for anyone else. And so what this means is that when people see your content, when they come across your business, when they come across your offer, like it cannot be confused for anyone else because of how distinct you feel, right? And so this is really the thing that starts making your name known. Like, you start becoming truly known. Like when people hear your freaking name, like they know what they're in for, and they also know like you are unlike anyone else, and that's exactly why you effortlessly stand out and why your brand feels so powerful. This is exactly what I call, becoming impossible to replicate. Like if someone were to even try to do what you are doing, what you are posting, how you are showing up online, they could try, but it would never actually be the same. And if they were to try to do your content, people would literally think of you. When I think of like becoming impossible to replicate, this is what I call like really being a category of one. Like being a category of one means that you are literally making competition irrelevant. That is literally the definition of being a category of one, which is like you cannot be placed in another category as someone else doing the same thing as you. You cannot be placed in a category of like the same market that's like super oversaturated as everyone, because you were creating your own category. And that is precisely what makes it so that you're impossible to mistake for anyone else. And this is really the difference between, having like short form attention versus long-term trust. It's like, it's all good to have attention, but then it's to retain it and also like build that trust, build that like real relationship with your audience, right? That's like watching you. That's like, they're not just consuming you, but they are literally getting immersed within you, and they know exactly, okay, like this, your name, it cannot be mistake for anyone else. Something else that I have to bring up is a question that I have gotten asked multiple times, which is, if you don't have that much of a following, or if you don't have the amount of following that you wish to have right now, how do you put content out there if you don't feel like you have the amount of authority that you want to have, or if you feel like you don't have much say in the matter because, you don't have that huge follower count to like back you up or whatnot. And this is number 2 on the list of like the stuff that I would do differently now, is that like you can never wait to feel credible, because there will always be someone ahead than you and someone behind you, right? And so whatever it is that you have to offer, you show up as the leader and you get treated as such. That is how authority is built, right? It's not built from, your follower count. It is built from your inner voice and like your inner leadership as a person, as the entrepreneur. And so whatever your follower count is like my answer to that question is kind of like it's always irrelevant, because I could show you a profile of someone that I know that has 8,000 followers and they are making like $50,000 a month or $70,000 a month, and then I could show you a profile picture of someone who has a big ass following and they don't really they're not like, you know, they're maybe not making that much. So it's about like looking at like what are the other threads that you have that you can pull from your credibility, because your credibility doesn't come from your audience size, right? Your audience size will grow as people see your authority online, as people see your leadership. That is what makes people want to follow you. That is what grows your audience. That is what grows your clientele when you are showing up as a leader, when you are showing up with that credibility and trust factor. Does this content resonate? Does it speak to like this ideal client? Yes, perfect. Then amazing. I feel like that is kind of like just a phenomenon of like wanting that follower count, but that was never a thing. Like that has never been a thing. It's like, it's not like the follower count comes first and then, you know, you feel like you're credible and like you're this authority that like can speak in your space. It's like it goes the other way around, right? It goes, okay, like what do you have to bring to the table? And then as people start to feel that trust and feel that like, shit, you are someone who is actually so fucking influential in your space, and like you are someone who is trustworthy and like someone who knows their shit, they're like, oh, okay, amazing, perfect. Like let's enter and let's follow her, let's enter her world, let's become her client, all this stuff, right? And so we need to like put off the follower count off the pedestal as if it's like the end goal, win all be all, when it's really not. And related to that, you also have, you know, showing up not to get something out of people, but to give, right? To bring something to the world, which is why you have your business in the first place, right? Which is why you offer that service, that offer that coaching in the first place anyways, right? And so I find that like when you start focusing on the matrix that actually matters and does grow and compound over time, then that is when you start having that brand that actually starts selling you. The next thing that I would do differently now would be leaning in on my story. And it's not to say that your story is what makes you memorable. You could have someone pull up online, share their story, but then people would forget it. It's not so much about the story, it's more about the meaning that you attach to the story and like how it all attached to your personal brand. That is when it holds a lot of power. That is when it holds much more weight, and it's kind of like you're building an asset that like a lot of people are not utilizing. When you can utilize your story to your advantage and tie it to the meaning of your personal brand, of like what it means when people go with you, of what it means when people choose you. That is when your story has a lot of power. And you know, it's funny because for a long time I felt that like this was a thing where I was unconsciously sharing my story just naturally as I was posting and growing my personal brand and all these things. And I started to realize slowly the impact that it had when people start to understand what you believe in, what you stand for, you know, what your soul mission is, why the fuck you actually care. Then, you know, they stop seeing you as like another person in the fish pond, you know, in the pond, and they actually start seeing you as like, shit, like you are the only person that makes sense for me. And that is the power that your story can have when you know how to like truly attach a meaning behind it and like have it attached to the foundational pillar of your personal brand. And even like, let's say we take for example like Taylor Swift or like all of these amazing people that like we look up to, like they all have stories that they share, and like we are engaged, we are like, we want to know about their story, and like it makes us see them as like this, not like this other, for example, Taylor Swift, she's not just other artists, like she is this, you know, she's this person, like she's super influential, and like part of that is because of the fact that like she knows how to share her story and like use it to her advantage. Number 4 on the list has to be one of the things that can make the biggest difference in terms of truly like beginning to like sell bigger. Not because you're doing more or you're adding more to your to-do list, but because of the way that you are showing up with this immense amount of magnetism around your presence. And this is what I would have done differently back then if I knew what I know now. I wouldn't just be showing up in the space or like, you know, in the content realm. I would be showing up as if I own the fucking space. I own the niche. And this is such like a slight mindset shift, but it makes the biggest difference. Now, when you are showing up with this image in your head that like you are one of many, it automatically makes you kind of like create to compare sometimes, or like create to like compete, or create to, you know, get the most attention or whatnot. But like, how different do you get to show up if you know that you are showing up to own the freaking niche, right? And this is when I love to bring up, you know, being in your leader frequency, like truly being in that leader and that influential CEO energy, right? Like that makes such a big difference when you are showing up as like, oh, I am one of many makeup artists, or I am one of many nails artists, I'm one of many mindset coach, I'm one of many sales coach, or, you know, productivity coach or whatnot, versus you're the freaking leader in the space and you are the most influential and looked up to person. And immediately I find that like that just gives you so much more permission to show up in this bigger way that like takes up more space, that is not so much, you know, conforming to the norm or conforming to, you know, what's being posted or what looks like it's performing better for other people or whatnot, right? And immediately like it also allows you to show up with this bigger presence, this bigger like magnetism from that slight thing. And I feel like it's something that is so small. I feel like it's so small. Like the difference is so tiny, right? Like showing up in your space versus showing up to freaking own the space. But it makes the biggest difference. And this is like kind of like what I think of when I think of like when you are truly the person who lives in your own world. This is something that I get told, like that I got told and that I notice, is that like I do not live in reality with other people. Like I truly live in my own world, because I know that if I create my own world, that I get to live in it and I get to have the exact reality that I create for myself, which is exactly how I wish to live. And so this is kind of like the same principle, which is like you are creating that reality where now you are showing up to own the space. And so you're creating and nourishing the right mindset in order for you to have that kind of presence that does own the niche, that is the leader, that is the person that other people look up to, that has the most authority and that is the most trusted from all of the clients and the audience that you actually want more of. And so it's like, it's such like a small thing, but like, holy shit, like that changes everything. And that is probably one of the main things that I feel like if I were to go back in time, I would tell myself, like, stop feeling like you are showing up as one of many people and like you have to like, oh, like please notice me, and like show, like how the fuck would you show up if you knew you own the fucking niche? Your name is on it. Right? And so that does change a lot for you. That changes a lot in the way that you show up, in the way that you feel, and the way that you create, and then the way that you are building your personal brand. Now, number 5 on the list, okay, has to be what creates the strongest amount of demand, of desire around, you know, your personal brand, because it's not going to be the most polished content that creates demand. It's really going to be the person who has the most amount of clarity around your own point of view and like how you have such a unique perspective that you bring to the table that no one else has, right? I think like one of the pros, if you like started posting content when you were like younger, or like you were before like all of the AIs and stuff like that, is that like you actually needed to trust your own voice and trust the things that you were creating, because you couldn't rely on like other like things outside of you. And so, and I feel like, you know, AI kind of like really exposed, you know, who doesn't really have a voice, like who doesn't really trust their own voice or like what they're able to create. And so, you know, what creates the most amount of demand, it's not like asking, you know, what is going to perform well, but it's like creating a strong amount of demand and desire for people to choose you and choose your personal brand, because of the fact that you have such a different perspective, that you trust your voice, that like you can be so solidified within yourself, why you are showing up and like what you want to be known for. You are actually leaning in instead of like looking out. If we want people to care as much as like we care about our businesses and like our personal brand, then like we have to show up like that, and with having a unique perspective that actually comes inward, that doesn't come from the outside. And you know, I find that like it's too, I don't know how to say it, like it's too easy, it's too like it's like one click away, right? So it's like so easy, and I feel like it's actually harder now to trust your own voice and like want to lean in, because of the fact that like so many people are preaching not doing that, but that does not build demand. Like maybe you have a different technique that other people don't do or don't prioritize. Maybe you prioritize, you know, helping your clients like get like cleared skin without any like thing that's like toxic, and you think that like it also really matters if you pair it with mindset, because you know that like the anxiety and all that stuff, like it fucks up your skin. So you're like, I know that when other people maybe they just focus on like this one thing that like you don't preach for, or like let's say like you know that like the nails that are done, like they're made to look fucking extra. They're not made to look like minimalistic, and like they're certain style that like you know you don't do, and like you're bringing that forward. Or like let's say that like a lot of people, you know, preach like, okay, being more productive and stuff like that, but you believe that like actually having real productivity is also having a balance with being able to recharge and like actually know how to like prioritize yourself. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's like these are the things that like there's nothing outside of you that can create that perspective. You know what I'm saying? You start having a top personal brand that actually sells you. And now, speaking of which, the number 6 that I would do differently would be getting laser focus on you branded content. And this is basically evergreen content that is branded to you, meaning that it is so distinct from everybody else in your space, in your niche. And even if, let's say, we were to remove your face in the content, like people would know, okay, this is your content with your name on it, because of the fact that like it's not just showing what you do, it's actually like building your brand. And it's evergreen content, which means that like it doesn't really matter when you post it, it still compounds on itself. Like it's still doing exactly the selling or like the lead acquiring that it's meant to do, because it's not, you know, it's not built on a trend or like what's working on this year. It's not built on like, okay, like this season. It's literally built upon your personal brand and what you want to be known for and what people remember you for. And it's building demand. It's making people binge your content and it's making them buy into you. That is you branded content, right? It's not about having content that's like polished, right? Like sometimes like people think of like branded as like something that's like polished, but like that's not what it is. It's like it's content that basically has your personal brand stamp on it, and it builds desire and the man around it, because of the fact that like there's no one bringing your expertise to life like you do. Like after like they watch literally 10 videos, they're like already, I'm sold. Like this is exactly what I was looking for, right? That is you branded content, and that is the highest leverage asset that you can have in your personal brand. And I should probably mention that this is content that is not like aesthetic, like, oh, like it's aesthetic, or like it's like just showing your opinion, or it's like B-roll with like text on top and audio. You branded content that builds demand, that is like binge worthy content. It's content where your voice is there, your face is there, and it's built around your expertise and what you want to be known for. It's not built around your opinion. These are like more like added style of content that like you add and you sprinkle into your content. But you branded content is meant to build demand around what you bring to the table, on top of it being evergreen content that like will truly do what it's supposed to do no matter what time of the year it is. And that's when you have your content selling long after it's posted. We're just gonna be so freaking honest, okay? Lastly, let's just go for number 7, which is that, you know, your audience, okay? It shouldn't just be consuming your content. It should feel like they're entering your world. And so that is number 7, which is curating a world. Now, I find that like I have always had so much fun doing this, and I feel like a lot of people like really have fun doing this when they start to like get a hold of like how to do this, and like my frameworks on like how to curate a very powerful and like obsessive worthy world for your audience to immerse themselves in. There has been so many times when I have seen people in real life and they literally came up to me and they were immersed in my world already, and they were like referring to things and words that I use, or like referring to stuff about my life that I was posting, right? And so that is when you know that like you have curated a world for your audience to immerse themselves in, and they're not just watching passively, they're actually like invested, right? And so with how do you know like if people are invested? Like you know, because you will see that like they're thinking kind of like similarly to you, or like they know how you think, or like they're using words that like you use in your stuff, or like they know about your life and they're actually invested in it and they're asking you a question about it, right? So these are all like side effects of truly having people be immersed within you and like within your world, right? Because the thing is that, you know, people don't just get invested in like what you do, they get invested in you. And that is what makes it so that your personal brand sells you, right? Like that is kind of like a big principle around it, because like it's not just about like your business or what you do, it's truly about like the person behind it, which is you. I feel like the more that you can be delusional about like curating your own world in your head and within your reality, the easier it is to like bring that to life. That curating my own world for other people to immerse themselves in has always come very easily, because of the fact that that is genuinely how I live my life. And so it's funny, it's kind of like a funny correlation, it's like a little side note, but like this is what I started to notice, was that like I already live so much in my own reality, in my own things of like how I see things and how I perceive the world to be, because I just want to live in my own world, and then I'm like, come in my world, right? All that to say that like the goal, you know, it's not to create content that like people consume once and they forget, right? Or, you know, they see your content and they just follow you. It's the goal is to build a brand that like truly has a world that like people want to belong in, like a brand that like people wants to belong to, right? Because the top personal brand, it's not just out here attracting an audience, it's creating a world for people and your clients to want to stay in. These are the 7 principles that if I were to go back in time and I would want to make my brand sell for me faster and bigger, that is exactly what I would actually focus on. That genuinely matters, that genuinely made the biggest freaking difference. And the more that you master it, like, this is truly what creates demand for yourself, what creates obsession, what makes it that you are the name that pops up in people's head when they are looking for the exact thing that you offer. Like, make sure to share it with a friend or someone that you know, like, she needs to hear this. I had so much fun talking about this, so I hope you absolutely loved it, and I will meet you back here next week. And now don't forget, like, this is literally hot rich girl summer, and so I am bringing something to you next week for that, so that you can really crush this summer season and that we can also do that together. All right. Okay. I'll see you next week and stay amazing. Thanks so much for tuning in. And don't forget to leave your 5-star rate and review on the podcast. I love to know what you guys think of the episodes, and I will meet you here next week.